Illustrated manuscript. This week we're going to dedicate an entire video to probe into the illustrated manuscript, the miniature painting that is in the Mughal Empire. Well, I think the reason I do that is because there is nothing more appropriate, I think, at least, to probe into the Mughal Empire, the Mughal lifestyle, the Mughal power, the Mughal rulers, and their love stories, their ambitions, everything that has to do with the Mughal Empire. Nothing more appropriate than through the culture of the illustrated manuscript. So for that, I think we need to start with the Mughal school of painting, because they really developed, they really incorporated the manuscript making into their own storytelling, into the Islamic world of storytelling. The Islamic world in Central Asia, those people we have, from before the Arabian Night, for example, this really long stories. They have a tradition of telling stories, of telling local folk tales. And when they get to India, they incorporate the visual art, right, the manuscript, into their way of storytelling and try to decorate it, put calligraphy to it, form huge workshops to work on those manuscripts. And of course, since it's these manuscripts, they are formed, patronized by the emperors. Of course, they want to tell their emperor, they will be utilized to tell the emperor's side of the story. Right? This is how politics and art and religions all cross paths, but in a very interesting way, and we're going to show you many examples. And actually, in your assignment, you're going to show me one very interesting examples and analyze it and tell the story behind it. First of all, created by Akbar, which is the third emperor of the dynasty. Akbar was illiterate, never learned how to read and write, but he was a big fan of art, of anything visual. And it was his successors, his son, his grandson, Jahangir and Shah Jahan, who continued his footsteps in patronizing art, especially patronizing Mughal school of painting, the miniature paintings that they put on those manuscripts. Right? There are many pages to the manuscript, to an illustrated manuscript. And when they combine, and each of those pages, we call it folio, Folio. We call it folio. And when they combine all of those pages together into one book that tells the story of the king, that tells the story of the Akbar, for example. There's one very famous illustrated manuscript created by Akbar dynasty, the workshop in the Akbar court. It's called the Akbar Nama, Tales or Histories of Akbar, which is basically, just Akbar's own way of telling his own style. I don't know how objective that can be. But let's take a look later. And why did he want to tell stories in such ways? The Central Asian, the Islamic rulers, they came from Persia, Central Asia. So they incorporated things from India and traditions from Persia. And they actually hired many masters as far as Persia, where their origins, where their roots are, to participate in those workshops. So you would see paintings and you would actually be asked to find out what are the traits, what are the elements that that's from Persia, it's from Central Asia, the cradle of the Islamic world. Uh, which elements are from India, local India? So one characteristics of the Mughal school of painting is the blend of artistic sources, Central Asia, Indian, and a lot of them even from as far as Europe, since Alexander the Great, right, came all the way, conquered many lands, and the culture he brought with him kind of had a huge influence in the area. And for the style, there's no evidence of brushwork or shading. They're not really into that. They're into the images themselves and embedding. This is interesting part. Embedding many different kinds of symbols to it. That really detailed, meticulous detail that they really trying to put in there. Right? You really need to zoom in to every corner to get the detail, to get those messages that's hiding somewhere in a corner. And it's a lot of work. And actually, if you like literature, if you read novels, this is a very famous book, that My Name is Red, which is the Nobel Prize laureate Orhan Pamuk, who's from Turkey. He wrote the book based off of the workshops, these huge workshops, the different craftsmen, different artisans, all kinds of conspiracies surrounding the making of the miniature paintings. And of course, I have more details about the emperors themselves in the note in my slides for your background information. I will not get into detail in that. But with that, I want to get straight to examples. Some of the interesting examples. First of all, as we said, Akbar, Jahangir, and Shah Jahan. These three are the main protagonists for this miniature illustrated manuscript making. So we want to start with the first, Akbar. In the 16th century, right after the height of the Renaissance in Europe. Okay, so let's see if we can get something that's borrowed from Renaissance. First of all, is this story, the Emperor Akbar on the elephant hunt. He's riding on a very famous and notoriously famous because he bounds and run around all the time. He's not so tamed elephant. He's riding on it to give a chase of another elephant. This is elephant hunt. First of all, elephant. What kind of symbol does elephant represent in Indian culture? Right? And this is the Emperor Akbar right here. He's portrayed, right? And this is another. This is actually 2 pages, 2 folios. Okay, this is a prime minister praying. This is a emperor chasing that elephant. So let's analyze it and get to some of the details. There are always more details than I can talk about, so I can only pick some of them. So the elephant Hawaii, very uncontrollable, chasing another. Of course, you're on a hunt, right? So you another extremely uncontrollable elephant. So this is really adventurous and really, if you like, dangerous. The event by itself is really dangerous enough, right? But the artisan does not stop right there. He wants to go further to attenuate, to amplify the effect of precarious danger. For example, this floating boat, right, form a bridge. So it's actually floating on the water, this narrow path. And he's chasing the elephant on, well, elephant, as heavy as elephants are, chasing on this floating boat. And those floating boats are swinging around. It's really hard to get the balance. And the servants, other people who serve the courts, they are here to try to help the emperor himself, but also trying to protect the emperor from falling into the water. So this and the perspective, right? First element for us to analyze the perspective of this painting is kind of like tilted perspective. Remember, we talked about it. Tilted perspective or complicated narrative, or everything happening on one surface. To even stress that kind of danger that the emperor himself is off balance, right? Everybody's really stressed out, in a hurry, doing all kinds of moves, right? And they're really nervous, tense up everything on the muscles, and this one swiftly swimming in the water. Everybody, you can analyze if you have time, except one person. Except that really courageous, really strategic, wise hero being portrayed right here. And you won't miss it because this is in red, through color, in red, just to give some support to the white gown that he's wearing, so that you have a huge red, which is also a symbol, kind of symbolizing royalty. So that you, as a audience, at the first sight, you would be able to locate this emperor right here, and you would be surprised by how at ease, how calm he is, even in a scene chaotic, like everybody in the scene. Yes, it tells the story of an elephant hunt by the emperor, but it tells more about that, right? It tells this heroic moment of the emperor. It uses everybody, all the actors right here, to give you that strong message that the emperor himself, it's just too powerful, it's so calm, it's so deserved to be the emperor. So you citizens, right, from across India, would you subsume to my authority? Would you acknowledge my authority? And think about this also. Well, elephant, it's almost like a symbol of India, right? From its tradition, religious meaning, cultural meaning, it's all kinds of meaning in India. And Akbar, whose ancestors were outsiders, were from Central Asia, from out of India. Akbar now is controlling one uncontrollable uncontrollable elephant. See that what that metaphor, what that symbol is, right? India. Sitting on top of India. It's kind of like sitting on top of an elephant in chase of more elephants, of another India. Maybe that India down south? I don't know. You tell me. What does this painting supposed to mean? Of course, there are more. For example, the fortified city kind of symbolizes the powers, the military powers of the emperor. But I'll stop right here, leave you with many, many more detail to decode. Because your assignment is one that asks you to pick a folio, pick a painting to analyze those details. Okay, let's briefly take a look at more examples. For example, actually we are not done yet on this page because this is one page, this is a posing page. And this is a prime minister right here who's praying, who's on the other side. Might be kind of far away, right? Because this is not connected. Yeah, it might be connected. Yes, this is in the water, and this is at the shore. The prime minister with all kinds of other crew. The other crews, of course, they have no idea. They really want to help save the emperor. Only the emperor here is at ease, as I said. But the prime minister is doing a praying hand gesture to pray that nothing happens to Akbar, right? To bring that environment into more, to add more solemnness to the environment. So in this scene, in these 2 pages, there are many contrasts. People who are really stressed out and nervous compared to Akbar, and also compared to a prime minister who's trying to pray, who's, you can see his worrying eyes, or you can kind of almost tell his kind of really worry about the emperor, and this guy doesn't know what's going on here. Animals, they don't know what's going on here, but yeah, even the animals, even this shows shows everything. Shows this beautiful castle that Akbar has. Shows how many crew that he employed, his power, animals, some kind of pet in the court, and you see all this water. It shows that water is really not so quiet, not so calm, but turbulence. There's turbulence in there. Adds more danger to Akbar's situation. And of course, we can talk about the clothing, right? Is it Islamic clothing or Indian clothing? No, their facial expressions. There's no 2 facial expressions that are the same, that are similar to each other. Different dress showing that different positions at court. It just showed that kind of court life and how the castle operates. You see these people bringing out tools, trying to help the emperor. But enough for me to get into more details, and you can even analyze those weapons that they hold in their hands. Because as I said, the folio is full of details. And I maybe you kind of, to this point, you kind of understand why I bring out the descent of the Ganges River from the Mamallapuram relief, or the Kailashan, the sacred place, the sacred mountain, Kailashan mountain, the Kailashan temple, those elephants supporting the pillars, supporting the columns right here. And we see the elephants right here. Elephant is from India, not Central Asia, not the older Islamic world. But we see them here. These emperors, witty as they are, she's trying to appropriate symbols, things that's from India, into their own narrative, into their own storytelling. And through these symbols, not text, but symbols, but visuals, they tell a bigger story. They tell a hidden story. They tell a story that's so witty that if you don't pay attention, if you don't look at all the details, you might miss it. Okay, there's another hunting scene. They like to hunt, right? Military, uh, they're military powers. Let's put it that way. Kind of shows hunting scenes regularly, going out hunting, showing their powers. This is another folio. This is another folio from Akbar Nama, the story of Akbar, compiled into a book, right? From all kinds of from many folios. Hunting of a cheetah. This another really chaotic scene, right? And it works kind of similar. People are hurt, people are nervous. People worry about the emperor's safety. Excuse me. Right? But the emperor himself is really in the heroic and elevated position, aiming at the cheetah right here. Well, some say it's a hunting of the deer, some say it's hunting of a cheetah. So it depends on how. Maybe you do your research and you can tell me which one you think it is. But also, it's worth mentioning is the background, the scenes, the way it's like swirling up all the way up. The way they kind of present the perspective, they present the scene, the composition is interesting. And it's just out in the nature, and golden framed by some kind of gold leaf. So this is a folio. This is a kind of like a comic book, visual story, but also it was embedded many decorative elements to it. Okay, moving on. Prison break, another chaotic scene, but here we start seeing the domes, the mosques, Islamic elements to it, some of the floral patterns to it. Prison break. Okay, and this is another elephant sitting on top is Akbar, and who's this? Notice this elephant's being contained. You see all these chains being kind of bounded, right, and kind of slowly moving forward. This is another folio, and even outside of this painting, we see a little bit of this the birds, other kinds of decorative, and this gold leaf decoration that depicts the nature. More to come. Young Akbar recognizing his mother from again that famous book of Akbar Nama. Have the notes in the slides. For the sake of time, I'll skip this one because we have many more coming up. I just want to kind of show you how to read, well, not just read the words, but read the visual of this painting. For example, how Akbar, smart as wise, smart as he is, haven't been able to be with his mother for a long time, but when he met his wife, he all of a sudden recognized her. That shows his power, and later that power kind of as a metaphor of the capability of ruling the dynasty, of ruling the empire, the empire. And you see other motifs kind of again. This decorative, all kinds of wine, all kind of precious containers in the background decorating, and we have calligraphy on top of it, and we have another layer of decoration. Right here, framing the scene, another layer framing the scene. All handmade. Okay, this is another one. Aqua commissioned these images, many of images like this, after the Jesuit from Europe visited him and gifted him, and kind of, after finished making it, gift to the Jesuit. And, the Jesuit, I think they would bring this. Oh. So in here, what kind of message does Akbar wants to send to Alexander, right? Another great ruler from the West. This is somewhat different because there's no figures in there, and it's a concourse of the birds. It's actually interestingly, a visual representation of a Persian poem, mystical poem. So it employs the Persian traditions of vertical format with a lot of emphasis on the landscape and a lot of the decorative elements to it. And again, pull out the slides and read the notes I have for you to kind of read out which bird represents which kind of verses, right, from the poem. Each different birds, they represent different symbolism, like peace, like leadership, like pilgrimage, things like that, but through a visual way, not the textual, but visual way, and very decoratively so. Okay, so that's under Agaba. Let's look at folios, manuscripts from his son Jahangir. I'm gonna pace forward more quickly and just pick the ones that kind of might be more interesting or just maybe more famous than the others. And I leave the rest for you in your homework and your assignments to choose one and tell us about the stories through the details. Okay, in the Jahangir rule, we see this one by his really favorite artisan Manoa. And you can see his figure is the largest. Actually, it's being depicted the largest, so that you won't be mistaken that he is the most important protagonist in the entire painting, however crowded with figures it is. And of course, there are more to it. There's halo to show his divine spirit. As a way to show the spirituality of his monarchy. So religion and monarchy as one. But also we see the Virgin Mary right here, which is from Renaissance, right? We see those columns, the Western world, some kind of decorative elements from the Western world that he's being able to incorporate that, or his artisan Manoa is being able to incorporate that into the folio, this page, this painting. And if you pay a closer attention to each of the facial expression, they're all very different, and they all show the different ranks, the different kind of emotions. And this is like German mendicants, German monks visiting, of course, the elephants right here. Everybody's celebrating Jahangir, and he's being the largest and most elevated figure. Okay, lifestyle of the royal court in a very decorative way. And this one, Jahangir preferring a Sofi Sheikh to kings. Jahangir preferring this one, right, to all the other kings. Well, the other kings, of course, they're not having it, right? Come on, you you welcome, you kind of show interest in this guy right here, then and the message again is very clear, right? He wants to show what he really respect, which is Shaikh is a teacher, some kind of a senior member in the Islam, and his job is to teach the young about things Islam, and his receiving this book from the Shaikh and all the other kings, he's been able to ignore them, and the King James is not really happy with it. But even that, you see the decorative, right? The very decorative, all handmade background right here, and also very interesting thing is, well, first of all, King James is from Europe, so Jahangir is they kind of have some kind of constant contact with each other, with the Western world, but also they incorporate things from the Western world, that like the putties, like the hourglass, that's Western world technology, into the painting, to show that he's knowledgeable and to show that he has his own preferences. He wants to show to the people that he prefer their own senior, their own teachers than outsiders, the powerful, the rulers from outsiders. And of course, a halo would definitely be needed, and this might be a moon, a sun right behind that halo. And again, well, let alone that decorative and the calligraphy telling people, right? An inscription that reads, Shah, may you live 1,000 years. Right, that's in the painting. So there's, again, it's more than capturing of a scene. And this scene is not even realistic. It's imagined. It's either imagined by Jahangir himself or imagined by his artisan trying to please him, or trying to kind of abide to the order, because that's what the workshop, that's what hiring of all those artisans are for. And here we can think about power, politics, and religions, how they all intertwine with each other, and how does it tell that story? Because he's seated right on an hourglass, just very similar in terms of a lot of visual elements, very similar to the Buddha sitting on the throne. It's also sitting on the throne, Jahangir. See this putti right here is saying, oh my God, King James is going to be in trouble. And I forgot to tell you one thing is the artist, picture, was smart enough to include himself. It seems to be a tradition for manuscript, but his find a chance to include himself into the scene at the very corner, right here. This is the artist who made this folio. Okay, so this is a picture of a painting of Jahangir with another leader. This time is the Shah Abbas from Iran. Right? He's a king of Iran. And this is more like a dream of Jahangir, a dream that Jahangir made, that the two rulers, they embraced. But this dreams, or this imagined picture is really biased, or to Jahangir's benefit. Well, first of all, Jahangir is monumental. It's like powerful, really embracing the really tiny, little, smaller figure. King Shah, the Safavid king of Iran. Okay, same decorative, and then there's a halo right behind both of them. And Jahangir in this picture, picture himself winning in our front. It's really manipulating all kinds of symbols of sovereignty. The globe, which represents earthly rule and alludes to Jahangir's name, who's a world Caesar. And this is India. India is a lion. And then India is really stretching over, it's kind of taking over the land of this lamb, right, towards Iran, right here. Iran is just a lamb, but we are a lion, no doubt, right? Kind of not just Shah's land back towards Iran. Go back home, you Shah, what's the name? Of Iran. What kind of political message does this one send? And there are many, many more. This one with really beautiful, a lot of decorative elements to it, floral motif that's of Islamic characteristics, and the portraiture of figure painting. And even in this one as well, from different manuscript folio, and even those ones that has only words, have only calligraphy to it, they are designed in a very specific way. For example, they're surrounded by figures in this case. Why? Take a look at the notes too. And this one is very interesting because it's kind of mimicking the texture of marble through just handwriting. And then, of course, we have... And what does marble mean? It just means those... Remember Taj Mahal? Those marble exterior and interior? It just comes some kind of royal material to use to accentuate that royalty. In addition to the gold plaque. And then calligraphy in there. And then there's more out hunting. Oh, this is not hunting scene. This is Sajjana battling Raja, which is from this folio gets a story from Mahabharata, a Indian epic. Do you remember Ramayana and Mahabharata being the oldest epics in India, just like the Odyssey and Iliad in the Greek world? And in this case, Jahangir is smart enough to even incorporate that part of Indian tradition into his storytelling about himself. Okay, and lastly, we have Shah Jahan sitting right here. For the sake of time, I will leave you with Shah Jahan, and you zoom in to each of them to see how the different stories are meticulously told, and how do they work towards the emperor's benefit, work towards the emperor's preference. This one elevated on a horse, military powers, right? When he's portrayed young, shows how smart, how he knows the different manner, how he can learn the manner differently. This is another story. So I'll leave you, I'll do a summary before I let you go. What are some of the characteristics of Mughal painting? Right, the narrative, a lot of them are narrative because they're meant to be telling a story, fusion of all kinds of styles, Europe, Persian, local Indian, folk tales, and naturalism. It's nothing too abstract. Bird looks like a bird. It's not like, doesn't look like triangle and rectangular pieced together like Picasso's. So naturalism. But they don't favor the shadow in terms of naturalism. They're not really into the shadows, perspective. Those perspectives can be really complicated, can be tilted, can take a vertical format as well. And also the fitness of the lines of drawing, profusion and embellishment of buildings in the manner of jewels, all kind of decorative elements with floral motifs. And also, you see the emperor usually in the composition, right? You have the emperor firmly in the middle, or being amplified, being stressed in the painting. Is the whole focus of the entire painting. Okay, now I think it's time for you to go back to go to your assignment, and you zoom into every detail. Or you pick a folio from either textbook or in your lecture, because there's a lot of folios, a lot of these paintings that I haven't even talked about. Even those ones I talked about, there are many more details to it. So, as I said, in art history, when we read visual, it's always more than just the telling of the story. There are more to that story, behind the scene, at the corner, hidden in those symbols and the way they are depicted. So your job is to point out those details, those symbolisms, those way of presenting the figures, the animals, the scene, the background, the landscapes, and tell us a more all-rounded, tell us more comprehensive part of the story.